Yes, joining us now is the Shadow Secretary for State for Justice, Steve Reid. Good morning to you, Mr. Reid. Thank you so much for joining us. We, of course, keep talking about cleaning up Britain. This morning you're going to be announcing clean-up squads for fly tippers, which I'm sure you're going to tell us about more in just a moment. But I've just been reading through the details, and part of this that you're proposing is introducing new respect orders, which is a new criminal offence to target persistent adult repeat offenders who are ruining lives with antisocial behaviour. We were speaking yesterday to Labour's Sarah Jones, who described it as a modern-day ASBO, which is very interesting that Labour would want to be associated with a policy that was done away with in England, Wales and Northern Ireland for not working. The breach rates were high and the number of them that had been issued was declining year on year. Why would you want to be associated with a failing policy?
Well, good morning. I mean, do you know what? This week I've been up and down the country. I've been in Swindon, I've been in Plymouth. I've been talking to communities that are absolutely blighted by antisocial behaviour. Gangs of young people literally terrorising small businesses in one area. And in various places, I've been taken to see piled up rubbish, sofas, fridges, bags full of rubbish, even soiled nappies. And communities are absolutely sick that this gets done and nothing happens to tackle the people that are responsible for it. So what Labour is proposing to do, yes, respect orders are one thing. For repeat offenders who do not mend their ways, there will be tougher sanctions against them. But let's take fly tipping, because it's something this government has dismissed completely. The amount of dumped rubbish on streets has gone up by a third since they've been in power. There's now 3,000 reports every single day, for goodness sake, in this country of rubbish dumped on our streets, nothing happening about it. So Labour is proposing to set up clean-up squads so that those who make the mess will clear up the mess. And people will understand that is just fairness, but it's also a deterrent for other people who are tempted to get out on the streets and junk their rubbish rather than taking it to the dump themselves or organising for it to be picked up. It's simply not fair on families living in communities that they deserve to feel proud of, to see them despoiled in this way by people who are completely antisocial and completely disrespectful of how everybody else in that community feels.
It sounds very similar to the Tory policy, which was outlined just last week.
Well, what happened was I first announced this in December, and then 3 months later, Rishi Sunak took those ideas and tried to claim that they were his ideas. They're out of ideas, so they're just taking our ideas. But what he had done was he shrank it down. Labour proposes to do this across the entire country. What Rishi Sunak offered to do was just do it in a handful of areas, barely a dozen. The vast majority of the country would see no change whatsoever. Now, what is the point of pointing to a problem that really damages communities like this and then proposing to do nothing for most of the country? That's what the Conservatives are doing. Labour's plans would affect the whole country, and the enforcement will be done by the 13,000 additional police officers that we will provide so that we can rebuild neighbourhood policing in every single community. People there that, you know, a visible, uniformed, reassuring presence you can go to get these crimes investigated and prosecuted, and then real consequences for those who are responsible for doing it. Now, the Conservatives clearly aren't too bothered about robbery, otherwise they wouldn't have nicked my policies, but it's a shame they shrank them down so most of the country will see nothing.
Well, Steve, there's an interesting policy on the front page of The Times today, Rishi Sunak's. A lot of people might think they'd like you to nick this policy, because Rishi is proposing to ban transgender women from same-sex spaces to protect women. When are Labour going to come off the fence about this issue? Because at the weekend, Keir Starmer said 99.9% of women can't have a penis. Well, you know, go the full hog and just say it's 100%.
It's the Labour Party, of course, that brought in the Equality Act that guarantees safe spaces for women. So I don't need to take any lessons from the Conservatives, who are only prosecuting 1% of reported rapes. The other 99 rapists get away with doing nothing. So the Conservatives are not on the side of women if they've effectively decriminalised rape. So I will take no lessons for them. Now, the point that you're making here is, of course, a letter that has been written by the chair of the Equality and Human Rights Commission, who says that the language around safe spaces for women is unclear because it doesn't define sex to mean biological sex. And of course, I think we need to listen to her. I think she makes a really good point. We don't want ambiguity in the law. We need absolute clarity. The priority for me will always be the protection of women. We saw that terrible case of, the trans rapist Isla Bryson, who was going to be placed in a women's prison, even though Isla Bryson had been raping women. You can't allow that to happen. So if a lack of clarity in the law is behind this, then of course the law needs to be cleared up so everyone is crystal clear and we can ensure that women have the safe spaces that they need whenever they need them.
Well, Steve, I'm glad you've seen the light on not allowing male rapists into female jails. That's probably because it brought down the Sturgeon government. But you didn't answer the question. Please answer the question.
This has always been my point, always been my position. Always been my position.
So answer the question with clarity. Can a woman have a penis?
No. A biological woman cannot have a penis. And I'm surprised you didn't know that.
I do know that. It just appears your leader don't. That's why I just asked for clarity. Steve Reid, thank you for your time this morning.
No, that's not what he said. That's not what he said.
All right.
Thank you.